new episodes of The View when she tries to pull the race card.
Yes.
And then she's like, America is racist. And then they're like, yeah, they might be racist, but they're not like slave owner racist. like somebody that we...
That's so true.
Yeah.
One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any is she said, well, I guess that's just what they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this before.
The punchline landed perfectly and the audience burst into laughter. But Gutfeld didn't just stop at making jokes. He used the moment to call out what he saw as blatant hypocrisy. For years, Sunny has been outspoken about holding others accountable for their ancestry, often framing her arguments around systemic oppression and historical responsibility. Yet when confronted with her own family's troubling past, she seemed to shrug it off, calling it just a fact of life. Gutfeld didn't let that slide. He pointed out how moments like these reveal the risks of identity politics when the story someone pushes doesn't quite match reality. He argued that Sunny's moral high ground had taken a serious hit and stressed the importance of self-awareness and nuance when discussing complicated topics like race and history.
It is funny. She's so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
Exactly, because if she is shaming descendants of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them?
Gutfeld explained that reducing complex issues to identity-based narratives can sometimes lead activists like Sunny to overlook important context, including their own contradictions. The real irony, he pointed out, wasn't just that Sunny's ancestors were involved in a system she passionately opposes, but that she avoided taking the moment to reflect on it. Instead, she quickly brushed past it, downplaying its significance. His commentary struck a chord with many who saw this as a prime example of what happens when moral superiority runs up against uncomfortable truths. To Gutfeld, this wasn't just about Sunny. It was a bigger lesson on how personal accountability often takes a backseat to performative outrage. After Sunny's shocking family history came to light, the internet wasted no time reacting. Social media exploded with memes and jokes, including one particularly viral caption: "Reparations? Let me write that check to myself real quick." Platforms like Twitter and TikTok were flooded with a mix of sharp humor and strong opinions, making the moment impossible to ignore.
In her defense, everyone has ancestors that did unspeakably horrible things. It's just that not everyone's ancestors have records tied to their DNA about it. Worried for Sunny Hostin's progeny in the future that do a DNA test and find out that they were related to a cast member of The View. And they're like, oh, it all makes so much sense now why I'm so stupid and fat.
Some people defended Sunny, saying she shouldn't be blamed for what her ancestors did. But many others couldn't ignore the obvious contradiction. Sunny, who has built her platform on holding others accountable for their history, seemed to brush off her own with nothing more than a casual shrug, calling it just a fact of life. This sparked a heated debate. Should public figures like Sunny be held to the same moral standards they demand from others? Critics argued that her response lacked the reflection and growth expected from someone so outspoken about accountability. The irony of the situation ensured that the backlash didn't fade quickly, keeping the conversation going for weeks. The fallout from Sunny's revelation didn't just stir up controversy, it also made things awkward on The View. When the bombshell dropped about her ancestors being slave owners, the usual lively energy at the table disappeared into an uncomfortable silence. Even Whoopi Goldberg, known for her quick comebacks, hesitated, seemingly unsure how to handle such an ironic twist. Meanwhile, over on Greg Gutfeld's panel, the reaction was the complete opposite. His co-hosts didn't hold back, throwing in sharp but playful jabs. One even joked that Sunny might have to start shaming herself for her family's past. The panel's laughter drove home their criticism of what they saw as her double standards, further exposing the cracks in her moral high ground. Rosie O'Donnell also weighed in, offering a more thoughtful perspective on the situation.
Guess there's nothing worse than to find out you're a white woman.
She's so disappointed.
It's really disappointing.
Her mother was white.
Oh my God.
Shame.
Oh my God.
The horror. History, and finds out that she's, this is fantastic, She is descended from slaveholders. She's descended from slaveholders, and she's been apparently getting a lot of mail about her call for reparations because it turns out she's going to be paying them and not actually receiving them.
O'Donnell emphasized that people should be judged by their actions, not their ancestry, while also pointing out how identity politics can sometimes oversimplify complex issues like race and history. Her perspective highlighted how discoveries like these can challenge rigid narratives and force uncomfortable self-reflection. The reactions from both Sunny's supporters and critics revealed a clear divide. Some saw this as an opportunity to discuss personal accountability, while others viewed it as yet another example of identity politics backfiring in a big way. No matter where people stood, the tension surrounding Sunny's response was impossible to ignore. Her reaction to her family's shocking past felt like a missed opportunity. Instead of using the moment to reflect or start a meaningful conversation about the complexities of ancestry and accountability, she brushed it off as just a fact of life. For someone who has built a career on holding others to high moral standards, this casual dismissal left many feeling unsatisfied. This could have been a moment of growth. Sunny had the chance to acknowledge the irony, share her personal struggle with reconciling her family's past, and use the revelation to deepen discussions about historical injustices. It could have served as a powerful reminder that no one's history is simple or without contradictions. But instead, the focus shifted to her perceived hypocrisy and unwillingness to confront her own past, turning what could have been a meaningful dialogue into yet another debate over accountability. Sunny's story is a clear example that no one's history is without complexity and that moral certainty can quickly unravel when inconvenient truths come to light. Her situation raises an important question. If you demand accountability from others, shouldn't you be willing to hold yourself to the same standard? With the internet's reaction, viral memes, and Greg Gutfeld's sharp commentary, this moment isn't fading anytime soon. Whether Sunny chooses to address it head-on or ignore it completely will shape how people remember it.
If you average out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television.
Sunny's dumb. Certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked and you went on stage with it and it's nothing
Just
there.
go for it.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
Sunny Hostin has been making waves in the media lately, but not for her usual hot takes on The View. This time, the spotlight isn't on her opinions. It's on her husband, Dr. Emmanuel Hostin. And let's just say the headlines haven't been flattering. Dr. Hostin, an orthopedic surgeon and the head of Hostin Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, is now embroiled in a legal firestorm. The allegations, insurance fraud, legal kickbacks, and, brace yourself, a massive RICO lawsuit involving a staggering 180 defendants. This isn't just another run-of-the-mill legal battle. It's a high-stakes scandal that's shaping up to be one of the most explosive cases in recent memory. Let's break it down. The RICO Act, short for the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, was originally designed to take down crime syndicates and mafia rings. But in a shocking twist, this case isn't about gangsters. It's about doctors, surgeons, and medical professionals caught in a massive legal scandal. The lawsuit accuses Dr. Hostin and others of orchestrating a scheme to exploit the healthcare system for profit. Allegedly, they accepted under-the-table payments in exchange for performing unnecessary surgeries and padded insurance claims with procedures that may have never even taken place. Picture this. Patients going under anesthesia for operations they didn't actually need, insurance companies unknowingly covering the costs, and money flowing behind the scenes like a rigged casino game. Only this time, the stakes are people's health.
I want a citizen that has a policy. I mean, I'm not saying that Joe Rogan should be removed from Spotify. He's got 11 million listeners. He's got $100 million, contract as of 2020. But I do think as the podcast platform, you have to have some sort of guidelines. How about a disclaimer on his podcast that says, this is misinformation? How about removing some of the podcasts that disseminate this misinformation? They have. And that's
The lawsuit takes direct aim at Dr. Hostin, accusing him of receiving financial kickbacks for recommending and performing arthroscopic surgeries, those minimally invasive joint procedures. At first glance, these operations might seem routine, but according to the lawsuit, many of them were completely unnecessary. Were these patients actually in need of knee or shoulder surgeries, or were they just unwitting participants in a money-making scheme? If these allegations hold up, this could go down as one of the most shocking medical scandals in recent history, outdoing even the most dramatic soap opera plotlines. Imagine putting your trust in a doctor only to find out you were nothing more than a pawn in a profit-driven scam. That kind of betrayal doesn't just hurt. It shakes the very foundation of the doctor-patient relationship. American Transit Insurance Company, the plaintiff, is crying foul, claiming they were scammed out of millions by being charged for surgeries that were either completely unnecessary or never even took place. But let's not forget, insurance companies have their own history of shady dealings. They've been called out for shortchanging doctors, rejecting valid claims, and bending the rules to avoid payouts. So, is this a legitimate takedown of a fraudulent medical scheme, or just a convenient scapegoat strategy from a company on the brink of financial trouble?
According to a new lawsuit obtained by Page Six, the orthopedic surgeon was one of 200 defendants named in one of the biggest racketeer influence and corrupt organization cases ever filed in New York. Emmanuel was accused of federal insurance fraud and, quote, getting kickbacks by performing surgery and billing a company that insured taxi companies.
Dr. Hostin's lawyer, Daniel Thwaites, didn't hold back in his defense. He slammed the lawsuit as baseless, accusing ATIC of using it as a desperate attempt to recover their financial losses. Thwaites flipped the script, making ATIC the villains in this drama. A classic courtroom move to shift the blame onto the accuser. And as if things weren't heated enough, enter Joe Rogan. The podcast mogul and media critic wasted no time calling out The View for what he saw as blatant hypocrisy. Rogan pointed out how Sunny Hostin used to throw shade at others, acting as though she had all the medical answers because her husband is a doctor. But here's the twist. While she was playing the role of moral authority, she may have been well aware of her husband's questionable dealings. Rogan's sharp critique adds fuel to an already burning fire, making it clear that hypocrisy in the public eye doesn't go unnoticed, especially when personal ties to a major scandal are involved. This adds another layer to the already complex drama surrounding Sunny Hostin, forcing the public to reconsider her credibility. The question now is this just about the lawsuit, or is it about the truth behind the personas that the public puts their trust in?
I don't understand how you say you love your country at the same time as you normalize this convicted felon, which I can...
It's wild how The View went from championing unity and inclusion to taking shots at Carrie Underwood, one of the most respected and talented voices in country music, just because she agreed to perform at the president's inauguration. You'd think someone like Carrie, who's practically America's country music sweetheart, would be applauded for wanting to take part in a historic national event. But instead, the moment she accepted the gig, the backlash exploded. Critics came out in full force, demanding her cancellation and accusing her of supporting a so-called convicted felon. Seriously, people actually ran with that narrative. But how did things escalate so quickly? And why does it feel like Carrie's the only one rising above the noise?
Country superstar Carrie Underwood has spent most of her career avoiding political talk, but she's set to perform at the upcoming inauguration. She said in a statement that she's doing it because the country must come together in the spirit of unity and look to the future. And lots of her fans aren't thrilled about it, but lots of her fans are. So let's put this in perspective here. What do y'all think?
I personally hope we're moving beyond the era of politics where we want to cancel people's livelihoods because we don't like their politics. And whether it was the Dixie Chicks for criticizing George Bush, didn't agree with it then, and Carrie Underwood, if you have a problem, you register your complaint by not downloading her songs and not going to her shows.
Right.
But I also think from a business standpoint, it's not a bad decision for Carrie Underwood. 75 million people voted for Trump. Artists tend to skew left-leaning, so she's overnight going to become an icon of MAGA and the American right. She's probably going to make a lot of money off of it. So I get why she did it.
I say.
From the very beginning, Carrie Underwood played it smart. No scandals, no controversies, just pure talent. She never made headlines for messy drama or desperate publicity stunts. She didn't need to. People loved her simply for being authentic, graceful, and incredibly gifted. Then came the invitation to perform at the inauguration. It should have been a moment of pride. But instead of celebrating the country, her critics branded her a full-blown MAGA supporter and called for her cancellation. Social media erupted, but while some fans jumped to her defense, a fresh wave of detractors seemed determined to take her down.
So
Right now, I wouldn't do it, even though I
You
can't
would not sing?
No, I would not. I would not normalize him. And she says, I love our country. How do you love your country and support and normalize somebody who was a convicted felon who really wants to destroy the country, in my opinion? I don't understand how you say you love your country at the same time as you normalize this convicted felon, which I can say now every
Respectfully,
day.
A lot of my family voted for Trump. They love the country and vote for him. I think that people make these decisions
Fine.
for a lot of reasons.
Okay, fine. And I would not be the person to say don't do it, because I believe in free speech and everything about it. I personally would not do it. No one's asked me, but that's another story.
I would love for you to do a roast at the Trump inauguration.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, no one else had any thoughts?
Before long, the backlash turned into a full-blown controversy. The View wasted no time jumping in, with some hosts scolding Carrie as if she had betrayed them personally. Meanwhile, country star John Rich backed her up, calling out the hypocrisy of the industry. Did Carrie's decision hurt her? Not at all. She's still winning awards, selling out concerts, and making serious money. The outrage faded and her fan base only grew stronger. Her story highlights the contradictions of cancel culture. People tear someone down only to forget about them once the outrage fades. But Terry? She's still standing tall.